This is Daily Politics. Here we look into the ins and outs of everything Kenyan politics. We pull no punches and not sugarcoat anything that concerns Kenyans. Today, this is me, Roslyn Obala, planning and research editor at NTV, and I'm joined by my colleagues.
My name is Oliver Mathenge, multimedia editor NTV.
My name is Eric Odur, an editor with the East African.
Welcome, gentlemen. It's been a while.
Yeah, but we've decided to give them one more before we go for the holidays.
Just one more for the road. Just to bring them abreast. I think the last time we were here, it was before the elections.
Yeah.
And now this time we are coming in with a new commander-in-chief. Maybe just to look at his 100 days in office now that we have a new government in place.
Yeah, I think I'm still waiting to feel the impact of the Ruto administration.
Yes.
Personally, I think we have seen a few things, a few hits, a few misses.
Yes.
And I think we still need to feel the impact, especially in terms of the economy.
Yeah.
I don't think a government can come into office and do things and not uplift the lives of the people and say it has worked. So for me, I still have to see the list that he gave us. Inauguration day, he gave us 6 key things that he wanted to do.
Yes.
Actually, out of those, it's only 2 things: the Hustler Fund and the judiciary. Nothing else has happened. Wow. So I think for me, he still has a long way to go. It's still early days. It's just 100 days. So we'll probably, now that he has his government in place, the CSs are in place and everyone is in place, the PSs are in place. I don't know when the chief administrative secretaries
Remember,
are
it's
coming.
a case still in court.
I don't know when they will come into office, but he has his government.
Yeah.
So they should actually work now.
Eric, maybe just to look at what Ruto has done, because remember during the campaigns, he was promising us like heaven. Everything was like, I step into office, my first job is to do this. And now Kenyans are still waiting. The cost of living has not gone up. The fuel subsidies have been removed.
I think it's usually a big lie for a politician to promise Kenyans or voters that the politician, when he gets into office, he can do things within 100 days. I think it's a big lie.
It's a big lie.
Yes, because there are a number of things that you need to do for you to probably implement some of the things you want to do. For example, some of these things need legislative proposals and also passed by parliament. You need a budget passed by parliament. You need to come up with a proper way how and you are going to implement all these things. Look at how long it took William Ruto as the president to, first of all, to put together the government. That is constituting the cabinet. Then after constituting the cabinet, the principal secretary which also had some challenges. Yes. And you could see that he wanted things done, but he could not do them because he had even to go back to the old cabinet to convene them and see if some things could be passed that could allow him to implement some of the things he wanted to implement. So I believe that 100 days actually are very few to judge a government. Let's give him maybe a year. Then from there we could see if he's able to implement some of the things that he promised Kenyans. For example, even Hustlers Fund, as much as it's being said that is one of the things that's implemented, is it anchored in any law?
Yeah.
Is it anchored on anything, or just something that was cobbled in a hasty way and probably released to members of the public to benefit from it? So even Hustlers Fund, I think, may need also to be reviewed in a way that is anchored on some laws and also given some pride, because if you look at it, it's money that has been given to the private sector.
You know,
and talking about the Hustler Fund, Rosine, before you go on, I think they have taken too long to set up the other clusters of the fund, because what they are giving are personal loans.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah? But you see, the promise was that we are giving you Hustler Fund for you to build your businesses. And so they need to get to that level where they are now actually giving money to businesses, people who are actually working, doing their businesses. Probably some of the people who are getting the Hustler Fund are using it to buy more, probably nyanya, but they need to get to that level for people to actually feel the impact of that Hustler Fund.
Maybe before I asked you another thing, just on the issue of the Hustler Fund, we were told that people will get between 500 and 50,000. I'm yet to hear anybody who has even got 1,000 shillings. Everyone is talking about 500. The other day there was a joke going around that we thought we will put up a kinyozi, but what we are having is actually money to go to the barber shop. So
yeah, you see, Rosalind, this is not a fund that is anchored on any law.
Yes.
And therefore the risks are very high. That you could give as much out there. Even in a bank, if you go to ask for a loan, actually they usually also look at the risks that are involved. So I think that's what's happening with the Hustlers Fund, because this is private sector money, and people can't just give money out there without looking at the risks that are involved and if people are going to pay. So I don't believe that. I don't think people will be given a lot of money at the moment because before we put in place proper mechanism to ensure that those risks are actually mitigated, so that if you give money out, if you give you 50,000 shillings, you'll be able to repay it. So I think right now they're still just trying to monitor how well it can function. Then once they put in place some mechanism, then we'll see people being given more money than what they're being given right now, because risks are very high at the moment of people not paying.
I saw the CS Chelugui talking about 75% have already defaulted the money that they have been advanced. But maybe going forward, we are still talking about the issue of the 100 days of William Ruto in office. Is it a fallacy? Because every person who gets into office always gives us a 100 days target. But when that 100 days is done, then somebody says it was a very short time. We need more time to actually actualize what we planned. But when it comes to a new administration, whereby you're coming in, there are new things that are actually coming to your attention as opposed to what you promised Kenyans. Should we actually expand this period more than 100 days? Because at the end of the day, I don't think there's anybody who can actually indicate, who has been in public service, that they actually achieved whatever they promised in 100 days.
Yeah, that's what I said, that this 100-day promise is usually a big lie. And I think it's just meant to hoodwink voters to vote, because, as a politician, you must always give people hope.
Yes.
You must sell hope. And actually, that's what politicians sell during campaigns. So that was just hope that when I get to office, within 100 days, I will be able to do ABCD. But looking at the realities and some of the things, government is not something that you can just get in and start doing things the way you want them. There are procedures, there are processes, and there are people involved that also need to be aligned with your policies and with your ideas. And also you need to align parliament also. You need to get budgetary allocation for some of these things, because we are getting into office when already the budget has been passed. You are inheriting some of the burden and some of the problems from the previous government. And actually that's what William Ruto found himself in, that he had to inherit the burden from previous regime. So how do you shake off this burden, and then how do you put in your policy? So it's a very delicate balancing act that within 100 days is not possible to do it.
To do what
you maybe need a year. You need a year, first of all, for now William Ruto to plan for the next budget, so that by June he's able to pass his budget, do the things he wants to do, so that maybe by now September, October, he should be able now to judge him based on the things that he has done. But at the moment, he inherited the things that previous regime had already put in place, and there is no way he can do away with them, because government plans are usually long-term plans. They are not short-term plans.
Was he not part of the government?
Of course,
he was part of the government.
He was the deputy president.
For me, I think the 100 days, as we've said, it's a fallacy.
Yes.
I think for me, the thing is that we have to take a government as a going concern.
Yes.
Where the government has to achieve several issues to ensure that the citizens are actually living the way they are supposed to be living.
Yes.
And so a new administration taking over does not mean that the government has stopped and another one has started.
Yes.
And that's what now all of us should put in mind before we start counting these 100 days and all these things. And think of it as, what is the best yardstick to judge an administration? You see? Probably issue of revenue. Are we collecting more revenue? Do we have hospitals? Do we have schools? People going to school? Are people going to hospital and getting drugs? Are farmers making money? Are there markets for the produce? All those are the things that we should measure a government with. We're not with a promise that was made on top of a vehicle during the campaign.
That is the nature of our campaigns. I think maybe to go into that, we've talked about the issue of even the budget to implement some of the the Kenya Kwanza pledges. And if you go to the report that was released by the Parliamentary Budget Office, and they were talking about the Kenya Kwanza in the first year of its administration, they were targeting to spend 477 billion.
Yeah.
Now, out of this, the government had already announced austerity measures where they were saying that whatever they were targeting to cut, they were going to save 300 billion. Now, we are talking about something that is a dream, because even the first supplementary estimates have not been tabled in Parliament. So even as we talk on implementation of the Kenya Kwanza administration, there is nothing actually, there is no legal binding or the budget itself to say that this is what we are actually doing. And if you look again at what President Ruto's administration had promised, the target of implementing the project is around 2.7 trillion in the next 5 years. So how will he do it vis-a-vis the Kenyans who are pregnant to get the results, like a twist of the time? Because when he was in the campaigns, as you say, that on top of the vehicles, you could imagine that I sleep and I wake up with a changed Kenya. But now we are having the Kenya that has not changed. We are just there. It's only that the players have changed. It's like you have changed the team. Like you are supporting Argentina and now you are supporting France.
You see, Rosalind, first of all, like you say, supplementary budget. We want to see where the government puts in money. Okay, that's how you judge a government that wants to implement some of the things that were promised during the campaign. So when we see the supplementary budget or a supplementary estimate that will be tabled in Parliament, we look at where does the government want to put money. And that is what will actually tell us that now the government is ready to start implementing some of the promises that were made during campaigns. Then come June, we'll want now when the government is coming up with now the proper budget. Again, we will want to see where is the government putting money and what are some of the policies that the government is also making in that budget. Then from there, we'll be able to know whether the government will be able to implement some of the things or not. Otherwise, between now, is still using the budget that was prepared by the previous regime. Remember, I think we also discussed here last time that was a legacy budget whereby Uhuru also wanted to implement some of the things that he would, some of the things that he'll be remembered for having been in office for 10 years. So maybe the priorities of Kenya Kwanza will now be different. So when he's preparing his budget, that's when we start judging him, where he's based on where he's putting money and some of the proposals that he'll be making, how to generate revenue. Then we will be able to judge him. At the moment, I think it will be unfair to judge him. We can only judge him that he lied to Kenyans because he made those promises. Although 100 days, we know from where we sit.
Politics is a virtue, and the people.
So he sold hope. Let's say that he sold hope to Kenyans because as a leader, you must also give people hope. So he gave people hope, but now the reality is, from where we sit, we will be harsh to judge him because within 100 days, it is impossible for him to do some of the things.
But we can also not exempt him with that, because remember, he was number 2 in the last government. So even when he was making these pledges, he knew that even if I tell Kenyans and I sell this hope, this is a period that I will take to actually start implementing some of them.
At that time he was talking as a politician.
Yes.
As a politician. And he was trying to look for votes.
Yes.
And at that time also we had the campaigns and elections when Kenyans were actually facing a lot of challenges, especially economic challenges. And therefore he was trying to sell hope to Kenyans that there is hope, don't give up. There is hope. When I take over, within the first 100 days, we are going to see things change. But if you look at it, when you get into government, there are so many things that must put in place. And also including even the cabinet and the principal secretaries that took him a longer time than maybe what Kenyans expected. So within 100 days, it's not possible to make some of these changes. We will judge him. Maybe after 1 year. But at the moment, we'll be very unfair to him. Let's give him time to put together the government, put together policies. If there are some laws that need to be reviewed, we want to see that in Parliament. And also, we look at his budget. Then from there, we will now know whether we are going to get the promises or not.
Looking at, I remember this week is when Treasury released the budget review and policy the outlook paper. And looking at it, there's a slash of 300 billion from the current budget, probably from the austerity measures that they talked about,
like the trainings, workshops.
But as Odor says, I think it's important that we just wait for the supplementary budget. That at that moment we'll know exactly where the money is going. Remember, these guys promised a lot of things. They promised capital for farmers. They promised the issue subsidies, NHIF, recruitment of teachers. This has to be, they have to spend money on them. And so once the supplementary budget, which I expect to come soon, now that we have the budget outlook paper, budget review and outlook paper, I think now then we can actually say that this is where they're headed. But at this moment, I think these 100 days were more of settling down, trying to looking at the low hanging fruits.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because for me, from where I sit, I think what they did even with the Hustler Fund was a long hanging fruit where they are trying to get people to get some cheap loans and have money in their pockets. That was it. It was just popular.
If you look at the austerity measure, where the government wants to save 300 billion, of course, it has its all pros and cons, because there are some sectors that are going to suffer.
Yes.
And I was being told that the media is going to suffer because advertising budget is going to be cut,
70,
and that means that
yeah.
The media business will suffer. Hotels are suffering because hotels also rely on these conferences and workshops to generate revenue. So you must also look at it from both sides, advantages and disadvantages. So of course, that's what we want to see in the supplementary budget. If you are taking money, what are you giving back? Because you must take money from one sector, but you must give something back to cushion the sector from collapsing or from facing some of these challenges. So at the moment, let's wait and see how that supplementary estimate will look like.
I think maybe as we look at some of the hits and misses that this administration has not achieved in the 100 days, I think we also need to look at what they were able to achieve within the 100 days, like the Hustler Fund and even autonomy to the police, and even in terms of the judicial fund and the promise to increase allocation to the judiciary. But beyond that, there is also the feeling that this administration has not come out to commit to the fight against corruption. Every single day we are seeing cases dropping, and we ask ourselves, where did we miss it? Is it the investigation side? Is it the prosecution side? Is it the weaker link in the judiciary? I think it is something that we really need to weigh on.
I think we as a country are making a very big mistake, and I think if you're having a judiciary that right now looks like somehow has been compromised, we will feel the impact in future. Judiciary is supposed to remain independent and do its work, even if it is given money by this by the executive. That is they actually deserve to be given more resources to work. But being given resources does not mean that we compromise the independence of judiciary. If you look at the rate at which some cases are being withdrawn from judiciary, actually they are setting a very bad precedent that maybe as a country we will pay the price in future.
But I also think we have to look at this also from the flip side. The withdrawal by the DPP, there is no need of the DPP going to court and losing a case because it was not well investigated. So I think for me, we have to look at the entire legal justice system, from the investigations to the prosecution, to the cases now getting to the judiciary. That whole chain, has it been working before? If it has not been working, what are the issues and how can they be sorted out? Because I think for the DPP, for him, he feels, and he has talked about it, he feels that some cases were not well investigated. So are we working towards ensuring that either these cases are investigated or any other future case is investigated in the right manner? I think that's where I think for me the issue lies, because yes, we don't need to see the judiciary acting like an extension of the executive. By the same time, the executive, the judicial system starts with outside the judiciary, because a case goes to court because it has been investigated by
and can sustain trial.
And the evidence is there. But now we have seen a situation where people were charged but taken to court, but it seems like the DPP does not have enough evidence to sustain the cases, and you end up losing these cases, losing money, because you are spending money for these cases and all those things. So for me, we have to look at it on both sides and see where are we going wrong.
Yeah, but me, I look at it this way. I think a case, even if the case was not properly investigated, I think that should come from the presiding judge or magistrate.
Yes.
Because when a judge make a ruling, actually they always give the loopholes where the loopholes were, and I think Kenyans are able to understand. But withdrawal, the way it is being done by the DPP, I think that is a disservice to Kenyans. Let judges make those decisions. Let the judges tell us that this case has been thrown out or has been defeated because the loopholes were A, B, C, D. That helps people to understand. But the manner in which DPP is doing his work in courts, I think leaves a lot to be desired. We need to get answer to some of this. For example, someone has been killed, someone was murdered. Then you are saying you are withdrawing the case, and
because the family withdrew.
Yes, those are some of the things. But you see now, taking someone's life is not a joke. It's something that should not be treated lightly. Because people need answers. People need to know what happened, so that actually it serves as an example. But now, if cases are just being withdrawn left, right, and center, actually will also erode confidence Kenyans have in the judicial system.
In the judicial system. Actually, it's the entire criminal justice system. And maybe as we wind up, let us come back to the city. In the last few days, you've seen what has been happening in the city, the outburst by the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, telling the governor of Nairobi that we need to talk about the matatu issues. But is that really the issue?
I don't think it's the issue.
Yes.
Because just because you are moving the stage from the CBD does not mean the people who use those matatus will not continue using the matatus.
Yes.
So you cannot claim that the governor is working towards stifling the businesses, that the matatu businesses. I think this is more an in-house UDA political issue.
Yes.
And I think it all has to do with 2027.
Wow, it's too early. They are barely in office.
Because you see, as we know, there has been talk within the political circles that William Ruto and his deputy have an agreement that his deputy will not be deputy in 2027.
Wow.
And so the choice is that the Luhya community would get that slot. Musalia Mudavadi being there.
The senior most now.
The senior most. But you see, Sakaja is also a young man who actually has shown that he can play the politics.
Yes.
So probably that's all the issues that probably they are fighting about.
Yes.
Because for me, I think we really need to decongest the CBD.
CBD, yes.
And we cannot compromise on that because we cannot be creating... You remember when there is the terminal that was created in Gara? It was to ensure that we decongest the CBD. But it failed because the people were not willing, because of those political and people looking for votes. People were not willing to take the bullet and ensure that those vehicles stop there. So that, because we were supposed to have a last mile sort of commuting, where you are dropped there, then you come to the CBD using the mass transit buses. The same thing with the terminal at Green Park.
Green Park, yeah.
It's supposed to be used. We spent money on it. So people cannot... And people who use matatus will continue using matatus. And so there is nothing about losing business or killing businesses. So for me, it's all political.
I also agree that there must be some underlying political issues because number one, if the city is decongested and you bring order, everybody benefits. Like Oliver is saying, that even us as users of a public transport system will benefit. Even the business community will benefit if there is order. So I don't believe that it has got to do with what Sakaja is doing, but it is a political game that is going on. We know politics is a game of interest, and I believe that someone's interest, are threatened, And that's the reason why you saw the deputy president coming out very clearly and telling Sakaja we need to talk, because if they need to talk, these are the people who are in the same political party. He doesn't have to go in public and say that we need to talk. He can just take a phone call and call Sakaja, where are you? Yes, are you in office? Yes, please come over. Actually, Sakaja can even walk from his office to DP's office, and they have a conversation on what is going on. But now, if he takes this to the public, it means that he's sending a political statement. Yes.
And you can even see how some of his, even the political leaders within Kenya Kwanza have actually picked the conversation. So that tells you it was not just a statement made out of the blues. But I think as we end this podcast today, I think we need to remind Kenyans that Nairobi politics, from where we came to the formation of the Nairobi Metropolitan to now coming back to a county, and we're just starting 3 months into the new administration, I think it is quite unfortunate. So as we thank our listeners and our viewers for the first time, the last time it was our listeners, we call you to be with us as we start the new year, and we thank you. We don't take it for granted that you are able to support us all through the year, and next year it will be more vibrant. We'll bring issues, we'll not sugarcoat, we'll say it as it is, and we'll also engage the public. Thank you.
And we wish you a Merry Christmas, and take care of yourselves out there.
Happy holidays.
Yes.
Let's meet next year.